I'm not my most confident when I'm like my fastest or my leanest or my earning the most money. It's always when my routine is just so great and I'm feeding myself well, I'm training well, I'm putting in the work for my mental health, I'm socializing, just like all my buckets are full and I'm investing into everything.
Olivia May, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Hey.
I really appreciate being here because you've had some really incredible people in here. So
Really?
it's an honor.
You've seen a couple?
Yeah. I've listened to two of my friends, Bree and Desi.
Oh, the two of the all-time greats.
Yeah,
by the
and they
way.
were back to back as well.
Yeah.
Which was good.
That was so awesome. Oh, it's so cool that you've listened to it before because Desi and Brit, like they're obviously like they're lovely girls, but they're in the thick of their sport, and obviously Desi's like so niche.
Yeah, I know.
Such a how do you girls know each other?
Well, she's got a sprinting background, but mostly through socials. Yeah.
But that's also interesting with Brie because she was a beach sprinter.
Yeah.
Turned track.
I know. I kind of feel like I'm like Brie 5 years ago, a little bit,
Gotcha.
like sort of following her journey. So she's definitely someone I've always looked up to. And then when I moved to the Gold Coast and joined her training squad, I was like, oh my God.
So you guys train together?
Yeah, she's my like my bestie at training.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's such a small world.
And she moved to like my training squad when she was young. And then I kind of did that.
Interesting.
And then, I mean, I'm not the same age as her, but then a few years in, she moved to track and I'm like, well, maybe I might do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just got married as well.
I know.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
It looked amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's an interesting because like what's your because obviously like you're a beach sprinter.
Yeah.
Like, and you do your social media and I'm keen to talk about the whole thing and the whole journey. How much does track play an influence on beach sprinting? Or do you mix and match the two?
Yeah, we train mostly on the track. I'm not really sure why. It probably would make more sense to train on the beach, but I think it's good you obviously hit higher speeds on the track, so it's probably better to train on that. But I think beach sprinting benefits track more than track benefits beach. And I actually struggle a little bit to run on the track because obviously on the sand, you want to run on your toes and not like flat-footed.
Yeah.
And something really important in track sprinting is like your dorsiflexion, so bringing your toes up. And because on the beach, I'm so used to running with my toes down, I'm just not getting that turnover. Whereas running on the beach, I don't know, I just feel like you're generally a stronger runner on the track, but technically you tend to be quite flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is me.
Yeah. But also like you'd be using like spikes or joggers on the track.
Yeah.
So that would change the whole scenario.
Yeah. And normally you would like be a little bit more selective, I guess, when you're wearing spikes, and a lot of athletes like have like foot injuries because they don't give you like any support. But then as beach sprinters, like we're used to wearing nothing. So like just our joints and ligaments are really quite strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. They seem so similar, but they are so different.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'd love to dive into your journey, like growing up, because you obviously, like we spoke about it this morning at coffee. It's like you're from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Made your way here to the Gold Coast. Like what did growing up look like for you? Because you're obviously like super sporty now. Were you always sporty growing up?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate to grow up in a very like sporty and supportive family. My mum was a PE teacher and my dad, he's a landscaper but has a very sporty background and dabbled in a bit of sprinting and he did cricket, footy, the whole lot. So yeah, sport was like very valued in our family, and my brother and I grew up doing pretty much everything, and I feel very fortunate that I was able to have sport as such a high priority and be able to try all the things and then figure out what's my thing when I'm a bit older. So I grew up loving gymnastics like most young girls do and was, like quite literally grew out of it. I remember when I was quite like a small, very little scrawny kid. And then when I was around like 14, I just shot up in height so fast.
Gotcha.
And to the point where I literally felt like I was too tall for the sport. I remember like competing in like bars and like just like leaving every competition like crying because every time I swung on the bar, my feet would touch the ground and I'd get an automatic fail. And I was like, oh my God.
There's nothing I can do about this.
There's nothing I can do. Like I probably could have like just been better, but
this might sound silly, but can't they just raise the bar for
that's
someone
what I
that's taller?
mean. It's just like I feel like it just wasn't made for me. So then netball became my thing, and I wasn't naturally very gifted at it, but I did love it. So it took me a while to, I guess, make it in netball. I remember when I was like 13, 14, it took me like 4 years to make my first rep team. And then I remember in year 7, like being so confident for the school netball team, and I didn't even make that, and they had 4 teams. So yeah, there was a few little like setbacks with netball, but just as I grew up, I started to love it.
But do you think like those setbacks earlier on in life helped you to be like a really great like athlete now? Like it almost gives you that little drive. 'Cause
Yeah.
I look at the 2 athletes, right? Like someone who is super talented and super great, and they make all the rep teams and they do what they got to do. But then you've also got that other athlete who's like might be in the shadows a little bit more, and they're just so hungry and they just grind, and then they end up becoming such a far like better, more experienced, hardworking athlete because they've had all the setbacks when they were a kid.
Yeah, I was definitely the kid that like I didn't have the talent growing up, but I had like the love for the sport, and I had my mum taking me everywhere, and every setback she'd be like, nope, like you're not giving up, you're going to get in next year, work harder. So I'm grateful for that, as hard as it was when I was young to constantly lose and not make teams and not make finals and everything. But so netball was my thing until lockdown, which for a lot of people was a really hard period, but for me I think it was like the most transformative part of my life.
Why is that?
Well, I guess everything shut down, so there was no netball, there was not really any uni, there was no socialising. I was around like 18, 19, so like going out was sort of the best thing ever. And obviously like everything shut, so I kind of had an opportunity to sit down and reflect on what I really wanted to do. And I grew up in the background of like netball and gymnastics. I always did little like nippers and surf lifesaving. Okay. Loved the beach sprints.
In Melbourne?
Yeah, so it's very small there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like out in the peninsula or like Torquay or?
I was on the bay.
On the bay, yeah.
At a club called Hampton, which is like next to Brighton.
Yeah.
But yeah, super small. Like a lot of the competitions we did would be like just a handful of girls on the start line, and the Queenslanders were like the big dogs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you'd win like state in Victoria, and then you'd go to like nationals and be like, oh,
yeah,
there's a lot more potential up
we
here.
got a lot more beach here though.
Yeah, exactly. And you can do it all year round. So yeah, it's tricky in Melbourne being so cold, but I always had little nippers in the background, and I remember my dad giving me the option when I was young to either pursue little athletics or nippers, and for some reason I was just way too scared to do little athletics. I was like, nah, can't do it. Like, I don't know if it was the people that were there, I just didn't have the confidence, and I was like, nah, let's do nippers, and loved it, but it was never really the priority. I kind of just did it for the free trip to the Gold Coast every nationals.
Very smart.
So I was always doing that, but it was never really something that I was that good at or anything. And then in lockdown, when everything shut down, I was like, all right, well, there's no netball and there's no sport in like at all. Why don't I just like have a crack at running on the track? So I remember in the like harsh Victoria lockdown, we had that 5 kilometre radius rule, and like I had like 4 athletics tracks within my 5 kilometre radius, and most people had nothing, especially if you lived on the coast and your 5 kilometre radius was like out to the ocean. So there's only so much you can do. So I remember doing like a few little sessions on my own, and it was really hard going from nothing to running rep 150s. And
how do you start that? Because I imagine like you would have gone in super green, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
How do you know like, oh, I'm going to start doing a 800 meter warm up and like, 4 150 meter sprints? Like, how do you know where to start?
I remember my first session I did, I saw it on TikTok, a girl training, I think her name's Tori West. She was training for, I think, heptathlon. And I remember her just like posting some of her sessions. I don't think we were even training for the same thing, but I was like, oh, I'll just do that today. I'll just do that. And I just kind of kept doing that, and then spoke to like a few friends and sort of figured out what sessions are, but they are like very simple. Like a lot of them at the moment, like our session will be like 3 150s, 20 minutes rest, like very simple. So it wasn't too hard to figure out. But then I had a little relay team in surf club, and us girls were like, let's just have a crack. So we sort of formed a little squad together, and our coach, his name's Paul, he pretty much dedicated his whole life to training us girls. And it kind of, I feel like for all of us, just like it saved us during lockdown because we had something to look forward to every day, whether it was seeing each other and actually being able to socialize, or like I would look forward to running like 9 300s. I'd be like, this is the best thing ever. Like I'm so excited. So yeah, I just loved it. And then obviously lockdown went for like 2 years. So, and also I feel like this is why I grew out of netball and gymnastics, is I'm very, like, I've always been very data driven.
Okay.
So netball was quite hard it was hard because all the feedback was subjective. Like, you might not make a team because a certain selector didn't like you, and like you might lose every week and you're improving, but you don't get that.
You don't have that tangible thing to look at.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I remember when I was like under 13s, I got the team statistician award because I'd go into like every netball game and I'd have all the data of this team won against this team and we got this against them. So I love stats, and it took me a while to realize that. So which I think that's why I love running so much, because I'm holding a stopwatch and I have times to compare, and it's just me against me pretty much. So after the 2 years of training, lockdown finally opened up and we were able to travel to a race in South Australia, and coincidentally the first race I did, I won, and I was like, I love this.
Winning's also nice.
Yeah. And obviously when you're like first starting out, your like rate of improvement is so fast as it would be for any beginner. So it was just so rewarding seeing like my times get better every single session, and I just loved it. And then when everything opened up again, I was like, I'm not sure if I can go back to netball. I think this is what I want to do. And I've always had this like love for it, but been too afraid to have a crack. So, and I was like 19 sort of starting a new sport, which I think is quite late for most, especially in athletics where you normally start when you're like super young.
That's probably like my favorite thing of your story is like when you started at 19.
Yeah.
18, 19. And that was the conversation. It was like, you like most sprinters have been in it since they were like, they did the little athletics and they've done their like technique, they would have done it all.
Yeah.
But you started so late and you just started on your own, which I respect hugely. I think that's such a cool thing, and also such a nice learning piece for other people who are listening to this who might be like, oh, it's never too late to start something.
It's never too late, yeah. I get so many messages of people saying like, oh, I'm 22, like your sprinting looks so fun, I want to start, but I feel like I'm too old. I'm like, no, you're just getting started. And there's like, even in like track, there's like masters, like you can race until you're like, you can't run anymore.
Wow.
There's opportunity for everyone.
Do you think that'll be you?
Oh, I hope so.
You'll be the 70-year-old on the start line.
Yeah, still having a crack.
Yeah.
So,
that's one of my I love your content that you put out. I think it's really cool, and you're really great at capturing the story. I think the storyline. I think that's really cool. I've been following you for about a year now, and one of my favorite videos was like the progression video of when you first started sprinting. Yeah. First started doing chin ups. First started training, and then it's like progression to where you are now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's only a couple years. Like,
I know.
It's crazy like what you can do in a couple years when you just dial in and work hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I captured more of like the beginning of my journey. Obviously, when you don't know what you're doing, you're a bit too like afraid to film things and you're a bit ashamed of where you are. But yeah, I wish I had more to like reflect on, because you don't realize how far you come until you actually look back at where you started.
And you're also capturing like a lot now, but imagine what it's going to look like in 5 years time.
Yeah,
like
I know.
You talked about Brie and like where she is now. It's just like you've got all this amazing content. Imagine like 5 years down the track.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're still in Melbourne. You made the decision this is something that I'm going to do. I'm going to leave netball.
Yeah.
Come to the Gold Coast.
Yeah. So I always had, in like growing up, I remember just like always saying that when I'm older, I'm going to move to the Gold Coast. And I was saying this when I'd only been to like Surfers Paradise for a holiday like once. I just always had this drive to come up here.
It's funny that Surfers was the pick as well.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's that's where everyone goes.
All respect to Surfers.
Yeah, but like the fact that I was staying there and I still wanted to move here. So yeah, I just always had this like drive growing up that I was going to live here. I don't know why. I didn't know what was up here, but it's almost like I always knew that my life was going to come together once I made the move. So in Melbourne, like 17, 18, 19, I was studying osteo at uni and didn't love it like the rest of my cohort did. And I think I really struggled at uni because I loved school so much, and I feel like the structure of school was so suited to me. And normally when you go to uni, people I feel like tend to enjoy it more because they're actually studying something they're passionate about, but I just didn't have that passion like everyone around me did. Don't know if I was studying the wrong thing or if just uni wasn't for me.
But you also were in it for like 2.5 years before you made the call. Like that's probably a long time to be in it.
I know. I was very far in, and it was the subjects that were most specific to the job itself that I disliked the most. So I was like, it's just not worth it. And it's a long degree. So
it's like 5 years, yeah?
Yeah. So I was in lockdown, and I feel like a lot of people were the same and were just like, fuck it, let's get out of here. Like I've got nothing's happening for me in Melbourne. I'm loving my sprinting. Gold Coast is the hub of sprinting, and especially beach sprinting. And there's so many people I look up to that are up here, and all the girls that win medals are from the Gold Coast. So I just like, I remember I applied for hotel quarantine and then got approved like 48 hours later and just packed up and left. And I didn't have the plan of staying here forever.
Yeah.
I only intended on staying here for 3 months, but it's been 3 years. So I'm not going anywhere.
Gotcha. Was it a nerve-wracking time, like coming into the Gold Coast? Like, did you have any friends here? Like, was there other people that you knew coming to the Gold Coast?
I'd had like a few little trips when like the borders had opened up where I'd just come up and stay like in the suburbs, and I had done a couple sessions with the training squad I'm with now. So I knew the coach, I knew a few people. I feel like with social media you tend to have a bit of a network everywhere. So there's people I knew of, but I was kind of on my own, but I was so excited to like start my life fresh, and I could be anyone who I wanted to be because no one knew who I was.
Yeah, really.
So yeah, it was really cool. So
What type of person did you want to be?
well, I think the person I was like in Melbourne was very like, I was a lot more social. I loved going out, drinking culture, whereas up here I haven't had a drink in like almost 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? Just because of training?
Yeah, and I just like realized I had never genuinely loved it, and I was just sort of doing it to fit in with the people around me. And then obviously with the really active lifestyle and culture up here, I was like, I don't have to do that. I can just be who I want to be, and there's the right people up here. Obviously there probably was in Melbourne too, but I was just so caught up in my little bubble. I was like, I don't have to engage in that sort of stuff anymore.
I love that.
And a lot of I did notice that all the people that I looked up to the most weren't living that sort of lifestyle. So I was like, if I want to be like them, then I need to behave like them.
And I imagine, yeah. Well, like obviously it's like you're like the crew that you hang around with, like they're probably more likely going to have the most influence on you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I look at people from the outside, they're probably like, oh, Gold Coast has such like a huge drinking culture.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
But it's the circles you knock around in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did a year sober, just finished, like maybe like September. So
Wow.
so a couple of months ago. And I'm keen to get your thoughts on it. But what I learned, like life got so good when I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
And like footy, it's my background, in a huge drinking culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like naturally, like your Mad Mondays, you win a game, like there's
Yeah.
an esky when you come into the sheds. Like it's an incredible drinking culture. But I was just like, I want to have like a bit of a break. Busy year this year. Don't have time to be hungover on a Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
And it's wild how much like volume of work I got done, but then also like quality of relationships, like feeling good. And like, do you know what, it sounds like a bit woo, but things just like started getting really good. Not that it wasn't good before, but like, did you find that when you came here? Like when you first come here? Because you just immersed in it, and it looks like you're thriving here on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I remember there was a little stint of like the first few months where like obviously you've just moved here, it's so exciting, and I did like engage in a bit of drinking, and I feel like it just absolutely like destroyed my mental health. Like just obviously like
How so? What do you mean?
anxiety is like
Yeah.
nothing too deep, but like I was just not the same as what I am now. And just like productivity and just how I feel at training, and obviously I think being surrounded by such incredible athletes in my training squad. Like I've got Bree, like I've got an Olympian standing next to me at training.
Yeah.
Like I can't afford to feel average every session. Like if I want to, I treat like every session as an opportunity to get better. So if I'm constantly like getting pissed every weekend, it's just I'm just sort of like ruining my potential a little bit. And I did notice that after I had like my little drinking stint and I was like, oh, I don't need to do this. Whenever I would drink, it would just be like one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even like the taste of it. So why am I having one? So then I kind of just started having it wasn't a choice to not drink. It just fizzled out. And then I do have a partner who plays footy. So I am around the drinking culture, and I just don't drink. I just go to everything sober.
And it's fine?
Yeah, it's fine.
How do you navigate it? You just don't think about it? Because I
don't think about it.
Because the way I think about this conversation is like, there'll be so many people who'll be like, yeah, that's great, Liv. But like, when I go, everyone's just like, oh, I want to, like, you should have a drink. Why aren't you drinking? Like, oh, you don't have a drink. Do you have a problem? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the people around me just like respect it, and they understand that like I've got my sport, which is busy. I've got my work that's busy. And I don't know. I think it definitely was like a little bit weirder at the start, and like people would offer a drink and I'd be like, oh no, like you kind of come up with an excuse. Oh, I've got work early tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then like everyone around me is just so used to it, and they don't even like blink an eye, and I'm just happy having my Coke Zero. And I also like, since moving here, I've just learnt to value my sleep so much more as well. Like I'll go out and then 9 o'clock hits. Oh, I'm tired. Off to bed. Productive Sunday.
I love that.
And honestly, since getting a Whoop,
I was just about to bring it up.
I remember like I think the last time I had a drink, I had one and I was straight in the red the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
That quickly?
Yeah.
Just with one?
And I was like, if that's doing that to my body, I was like, nah, not worth it.
Also, I love your Whoop band, by the way.
Thank you.
Is that the what's it? I forgot the name of it.
I can't remember, but it's nice. I've got the Christmas one.
You got the Christmas one?
I haven't put it on yet.
Yeah, this is sick. I looked at yours, I was like, yours is sick.
Yeah, this
Yours
one's
looks
nice. It's like a little knitted jumper.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
We just still on the drinking thing. We went over to Whoop. Like we went to the HQ in Boston.
No way.
Earlier this year. Have you been?
No.
You have to go.
I really want to go.
It is the coolest office ever.
Really?
It's like Google, probably like not that big,
Yeah.
but it's like 8 stories. They've got
Wow.
gyms, sleep labs. Like it overlooks Fenway Park, which is the Red Sox stadium.
Oh, sick.
So anytime there's like a concert or anything, all the employees get up on the roof and like look down and they can hear the live music.
That's so cool.
Anyway, we did like a bunch of podcasts with their athletes and a few of their like leadership crew. We were supposed to have Kristen Holmes on and Will, the founder, but they took a week off. But anyway, we had some incredible conversations with Jeremy Powers, who oversees the athlete program and sports marketing. Emily Capitalupo, which is head of research, algorithms, and data. That podcast was sick because I was just at the end of my like drinking sabbatical. Yeah. And I was like to Emma, I was just like, and she's lovely. Like they're all like the most lovely people. I was like to Emma, I was like, I'm in this like in between stage where like I've just had a year off. Like life is so good. I love everything that's going. But I don't know if I want to keep drinking. I don't know if I want to like, and I was just at this like weird little stage. Yeah. And I was like, what do you think? I was like, what are your tips? Yeah. And obviously like, she's been researching this for years. Like she was the first employee at work, like employee number 1. And she's like, well, for me, like I just don't drink. I just say I don't drink because like of all the benefits that she named in the podcast. But then she's just like, I say I don't drink, but then there'll be times where like I'll go to a wedding, I'll have my best friend's birthday, and I'll have a champagne with them. Like I'll like that. So I'll drink on occasion. And when I heard that, I was like, you know what? Like I think I really like that in the sense like it was my sister's wedding not too long ago. Yeah. That's something I want to have a drink for. Yeah. You know, and that, it's special to her. Like my sister really enjoyed it. I had a champagne. Did I get like, no, I drove grandma home at like, like 10 o'clock. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but that's really nice. Yeah. And it was really cool to get her opinion on it because she was like, so like influential in that space. Yeah. But you should go.
Yeah. That's like on my bucket list next year. I really want to go.
Boston. And they've got like all these little snacks. They've got like kombucha on tap. Like,
that's so cool.
Ice baths on top of the thing. It's so
Sounds
sick.
like heaven.
You'll feel it. Even what's her name? Alexi Coffey, head of product. She's we did a podcast with her as well, and she was like professional skier, did all these incredible things, got into like tech and like startups. So she oversees everything from like a product point of view. So like all the research and data and implementing it into this little gadget and device.
That's cool.
So cool. Yeah. But she's struggled with like dyslexia growing up. Wow. Like had a lot of like learning difficulties. And so the way she like overcame all these things and now she's like overseeing like the whole product of work. It's like,
yeah, that's incredible.
So much respect for her. Yeah. Like, and it was just like, we were just going back and forth of like different theories and like what they're doing at Whoop and they're really leaning into like the female space as well. Like both Em and Alexia are super passionate about the female space, especially around like menstrual cycles and pregnancy. So it is interesting because a lot of the conversations we have with girls on this podcast where it's just like probably like a little bit of lack of research, especially coming out of a pregnancy or trying to track the menstrual cycle. It's like we're just unsure. But this is such a great tool because the studies that they're doing is incredible.
Yeah, they're such a cool team.
What do you use your Whoop for? Because you've been, like, I think that's when we first met at the Whoop event earlier this year when they relaunched it.
I literally said that was the best day of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I was just in my element. Yeah. Like, obviously, I've always loved my stats. So having my Whoop is just like, oh, I just love it. And then that day was just so cool. Like, I even missed half of it. And I was like, no, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, where were you?
We were filming a little, like, ad for them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're doing a little BTS kind of stuff.
But what was your favourite part of the day? Because there was a heap of different talks.
Yeah, I just love the seminars from Brian, just going through everything.
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah. Great men.
Yeah. But no, I loved it. It was so cool. And just like the atmosphere, the Whoop house, so cool. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I loved it.
Walking in like on Darling Point, Darling Harbour.
Yeah.
And it was like Ruth and Brianna did it so slick.
Oh, yeah. They are the best. I love those two.
Two of the nicest people out. And we try and
Yeah.
catch them when we're in Sydney next week, week
Yeah.
after. They're lovely. But even like, we had like the saunas in there, found space saunas. And you missed, Rory Warnock did a breathwork session.
Yeah, I was devastated I missed that.
So good. Do you
Yeah.
incorporate any breathwork into your training?
I used to do breathwork every morning. I do like my little sunrise walk, get my morning sunlight.
I do see that on your stories.
Log it
all
in
the
the
time.
journal.
Yeah. Oh, you log it? Yeah.
Yeah, I love my journal. I love to see like all the insights and what's working for me, what's not.
What are you tracking?
Oh, I track like everything. Like if I have like anti-inflams, what time I have my last meal, like caffeine, sauna, everything.
Fuck,
Whether the dog's in the bed.
Oh,
Like,
really?
Yeah,
Can
it's,
you-
like,
I
it's
didn't
a
even know you
whole
could track that.
ordeal. Yeah, you can track so many things.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I love it so much. Mostly sleep.
Mm.
I was absolutely shocked at how little sleep I was getting compared to what I thought I was getting. And also just using my sleep to like peak for major events. I love the sleep coach and like I'll always.
How do you use it? Yeah, tell me how you use it.
So like obviously I just sort of look at what time I need to go to bed based off what time I need to wake up, use a sleep coach for that. But for major events, I normally would race in the afternoon so I can wake up whenever I like. And I always set it for wake me up once I've hit 100%. So that way I have the peace of mind when I'm racing that there's nothing more I could have done.
So you won't set an alarm. You'll just say when it's time for me to wake up.
Yeah. And obviously tracking my strain. I try and keep my strain these days I'm trying to keep it as low as possible so that I can keep up with my sleep. And even I just love how it warns me when I'm about to get sick or like burnout really shows on that. Obviously with the one drink that I had, how does it know? I didn't tell it. Like crazy. I love it. So yeah, it helps me so much. And like with load management.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy, like as an athlete, to think more is more. You need to always do more. So to have that to sort of tell me, no, you need to slow down. You haven't had enough sleep. Yeah.
Will your coach, you obviously have a coach that helps train you. How do you go navigating like the gym and your training schedule? Because like I know a big part of what you talk about on social media is training with intention and training with purpose. I know you've spoken about that a few times. How do you go navigating that? Is it your coach helping you with that, or do you drive a lot of that yourself?
So I've got my track coach and I train with him 3 days a week. And then I've got an S&C coach who I train with every other day. And I actually have a Whoop group with my S&C coach. So he sees everything I do.
Oh, that's so cool.
It is cool, yeah. It definitely holds me accountable. So if I have like 5 hours sleep, I'll get a little message and be like, what was that about?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or like if I were to do like an extra session, like he can see that. So
you can't get away with anything.
I can't get away with anything. And it's also very competitive as well. Like he's like, the day that your HRV is higher than mine, like I'm out. Like I'm leaving the group.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And we do like little competitions, but if you can, whoever gets the highest recovery that week, and whoever loses has to do like a punishment bike session. Like,
oh, that's
full on.
awesome.
It's the first thing I look at when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, what did everyone else get?
Gotcha.
Where am I ranked?
Yeah, that's so sick.
But I have an S&C coach who trains me like very sport specific for sprinting, and obviously it's very individualized to what I need. And I love it so much. I love training the way I do in the gym, like an athlete, and like specific to my sport. And yeah.
How do you go with motivation? Is there times where you don't want to go training?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm very driven and I'm very disciplined. I'm not always motivated, but I think having like such a great support system and having my coach there, like I have a time where I have to meet him, so I have to go. Like that's holding me accountable. And I do struggle mostly in like off season. Like we race. I've got my first beach race this weekend, December 8, and I go all the way through Easter. So it's like a pretty short competition season, and then off season starts mid-April through to December. So it's a long time of no racing and just training week in, week out. So I do tend to struggle then, but I think just having a coach and training the way that I like, and he also helps like if I'm not enjoying something or I'm finding it really unmotivating or it's a bit of a drag, he's like, well, like, is there something fun that you want to improve on? Like, for example, pull-ups. Like, obviously they are great for sprinting to an extent, but I do a lot of them because I love them. So he's like, well, let's try and get your pull-up up. Like something else to focus on other than just the racing and training for the sport.
I love that. I think even the way that you said like the discipline part of it really helps you.
Yeah.
I'd really love to zoom in on the intention and purpose part of it because I think does that that's obviously got to be like an internal motivator, like
Yeah.
having that intention. But how would like, what's the advice that you would give people around like intention and purpose when it comes to training?
I think just like if you want to achieve results, like you need to have a reason why you're training the way you do. Like I remember when I was first starting in the gym, I would just like go and walk on the stepper and like do a little jog on the treadmill and do the leg press 'cause that's all I knew. And I got absolutely nothing out of it. And I think when you're training with intention, then you're able to actually apply progressive overload, and that's how you get results. And when you know why you're training as well, it's so much more motivating to rock up because it's aligned with your goals. So yeah, I think I just personally love training like power, like an athlete, and I don't think I could ever go to like a traditional like strength program because it's not where my passion lies. And I've had crazy results over the past 3 years training with intention, and obviously it translates onto the track as well. So I do struggle though to sometimes like remind myself that I'm a sprinter and not a weightlifter.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Because I love my gym so much, but that's not what I'm training for. But it is good to love both because I'm sure there's so many sprinters out there that hate the gym work.
And you're also lifting heavy.
Yeah, which I love.
Oh, I saw some of your clips and I was like, I think it was just like you were boxing it, so it was like a half like
Clean?
no, your cleans as well, but more so like
the pin squats?
the pin squats.
Yeah.
I was gonna like, that's a little. I was like, my back would break doing that. I was like, I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. No way.
Yeah.
Is that the progressive overload? Like you obviously didn't start there. Like you would have worked up to that point.
Yeah.
But that's what you mean. Like you talk about lifting heavy. Is that that's part of it?
Yeah. And also the way, like, the range of motion throughout the year. So when I'm like in the depths of winter, I'm doing like full range of motion, just normal squats. And then as I get closer to season and we're trying to like limit fatigue on the track, then range of motion drops. And also there's like so many studies to show that like quarter squats are best for power and sprinting. So when I'm in the peak of my season, I'm doing quarter squats, and that's when the weight goes up because we're only squatting not even halfway down.
Yeah.
So I just love the way that my training changes throughout the year, and I have something to look forward to, and only having like a short winter block to do kind of like bodybuilder style training, like because it's only a short period and I know that it's going to help me so much when I'm in summer and I'm doing my fun pin squats and heavy cleans, like it's going to pay off.
You seem like a very curious person. Like you talk about the data, you talk about the
Yeah.
progressive overload and the training. This kind of seems like your like little niche, like your training.
Yeah.
Do you find you still like enjoying looking at this stuff and
Absolutely.
learning about this stuff?
Yeah, I do love to like just jump on studies online and look at what's mostly I love like what benefits sprint performance, but and also as a Move With Us coach, like I have a program called the Power Program, which is super sport specific, and it's like about training like an athlete, and I just love it so much, and I feel like that is definitely my thing. I do have an S&C cert as well, so I did do a little bit of coaching a few years ago.
Yeah.
Just it was more so general population, coaching them sort of the way I do, but I think it's just so much fun, and more people should give it a crack because everyone at some stage in their life has played sport. So it's kind of allows you to go back to like your inner child and train like you did back then, but in the gym. And yeah, I just love it. And also lifting heavy weights, you get to like compete against yourself.
Yeah, and you're always finding a way to get better.
Yep, exactly.
That's probably a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And it's also really cool that you're like researching and learning it off to the side, because then you could probably push back on your coach a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I would love to hear the conversations that you guys
Yeah,
have
it's like,
internally.
why am I doing this again?
Run me through this one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You talked about goals before.
Yeah.
Have you always been a goal-driven person? Like, is that something you write down? What are your goals coming up? Like, how do you navigate that space?
Yeah, I've definitely always been very goal driven. At the moment, I tend to just do like my yearly goals and then just like reflect back on them. But sport wise, my goal for the past like 3 years has always just been to perform better than the previous year. So, which is great. But then also now I'm getting to the point where I've been doing it for a few years, and obviously the progression is getting less and less as you get better. So I'll be interested to see how that goes over the next few seasons.
What's your big goal professionally first?
As in like work-wise?
As in like training-wise and
Training-wise.
like beach sprinting-wise, yeah.
I want to be the national champion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me 12 years to make my first national final, which was 2 years ago. So I clearly love the sport a lot if I hung around for a while. And I feel like it's only now that within the sport I'm starting to get noticed. There's a few girls that have been like, oh, like, like, where did you come from? I'm like, no, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
I've just been coming last every year.
You gotcha.
But I've just been having a crack. And then it actually was the year after I moved to the Gold Coast that I made my first final. And I remember like celebrating because with like beach sprinting, it's not timed. So you have to progress top 4 through every round to get through, which can be really tricky if you draw an unlucky heat and you've got like the top 4 fastest girls.
Sure.
So it's like we do up to 5 races to make like a national final, and it's all within the space of 2 hours, unlike track sprinting where you come back the next day. So it is pretty brutal. And I remember when I made my first final after I qualified 4th in the semi, I was like already celebrating, and my coaches were like, what? Like, it's kind of like just a given here that you make finals. And I was like, no, I've been trying for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's definitely the goal. And I'm currently, last season I finished 5th. That's the best I've had. So just trying to get one step further every year. But obviously it's hard as well. A lot of it's out of your control because you don't know who's going to show up on the day. And some people have years off and then come back into it. And now there's a really talented young generation coming through. So yeah, that's the goal.
It's an exciting...
And that's what Brie did before she moved to the track.
Yeah.
She won her gold. So
She won her gold and then moved
on the
to
beach.
track.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that could be you?
I hope so.
What if you like just win it and you're like, oh, I'm going to be a track star now?
Maybe.
You know?
I actually have, obviously I loved netball when I did it and I have sort of grown out of it, but I do really miss the team side. So I'd love to hopefully win a gold soon and then hopefully try something new. Like I'd love to have a crack at AFL or something.
I was going to say that. I was like,
Yeah.
if you were going to do one sport that wasn't beach sprinting, what would it be? Do you think it would
Yeah.
be AFL?
Or even, I don't know very much about rugby sevens because I don't think we really had it in Victoria. Like I'd never really heard of it, but it's huge here. And a lot of my like sprinting friends have moved on to that and it looks very fun.
Yeah.
And a bit like shorter games. I feel like a bit more suited to me. So
You wouldn't do the long AFLW games?
I don't know. It would take me a while to train up for that. And also like I was speaking to my coach about it and he was like, yeah, like even just learning to like change direction again. Like you've been running in a straight line for all these years. Like it's going to take a lot to get your body right. But I think it'd be fun. And also like even if I just played like a little bit of like local sport or social over winter just to keep things exciting while I'm not racing. But yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately.
I can just imagine you and your partner doing like drills in the backyard.
Oh, I know.
Imagine like doing like some passes off, some fumbles, like that kind of thing.
I'm definitely lucky having him.
Yeah.
And he's been coaching a lot lately as well, so it's almost like it's meant to be.
That could be your in.
Yeah.
That could be your in.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. And even like the way like AFLW and the female spaces are growing. Like, it is so cool to see.
So cool.
And that's why I love having conversations with the NRLW girls on here, the AFLW girls. Like, we're going to have Maddie Levi.
She's a close friend of mine.
Is she really? She's going to come on?
Yeah, we got matching tattoos.
No, what? No way. She's
yeah.
She's coming to Goldie in like a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Sorry, she didn't tell you. No, she's from here, but she bounces around all the time, obviously, with the sevens.
Yeah.
But I think she'll be back for Christmas.
Oh, amazing.
That'd be so sick.
She's so talented.
What's the matching tattoo?
It was within a few weeks of moving here. I actually I'd only met Maddie like a couple times, but a few of us got 4218 on our ankle, which is the postcode that we all lived in. And it's so funny because they've all like at one point I was the only one that actually lived here. Like Maddie was overseas or in Sydney, and we've got it with Tegan as well, her sister.
Yeah, lovely girl.
Yeah, so no, I love it. It's pretty funny.
We sat together at the NRL grand final.
Oh, cool.
The NRL grand final, and like we've had a bunch of conversations. I think she's done a bit with like Whatability, a company that I was involved in, still kind of involved in, and it was quite cool. Like we just ran into each other at the grand final. Like, hey, we're up in like the corporate suite. I'm like, let's just fucking sit together. Let's get a couple. We actually did have a couple of drinks while we were there.
Oh, that's all right. It's all about balance.
Balance, 100%. I would love to talk about the balance between your social media side and your beach sprinting side.
Yeah.
When did social media become such a big part of your life? Was it always, when you were growing up and you were a teenager, or was it more so recently?
It was quite recent. It was definitely something I fell into. I mean, during like COVID and when TikTok was sort of becoming a big thing, everyone engaged a little bit. Sure. So I loved posting, but it was never anything serious. And then I remember when I was moving to the Gold Coast and I was in hotel quarantine, I was doing these little like hotel quarantine day in the lives. Yeah. And it was like the same thing every day, as you can imagine, because you're just going insane in this hotel room and people just love them. And then, so my TikTok sort of set off a little bit, and then people were really interested in like my move to the Gold Coast from Melbourne because no one was really able to do it during COVID. So I grew a bit of a platform on that, and then it just sort of translated over to my Instagram, and then over the past few years it's just grown quite a lot. But it wasn't something I intended to do at all, and then sort of fell into it as a career.
And that's your full-time job now?
Yeah.
Is it cool to be able to have that as your full-time job? Because I imagine you'd be able to say yes or no to what you want to at the moment.
Yeah.
And I imagine that would complement your beach sprinting because you can give your time to your training.
Yeah.
And it also crosses over because you're filming a lot of your training as well.
Yeah.
Does that help?
So much. And I feel so lucky to be a sprinter and be able to do that because there's like no money in the sport whatsoever. So to be able to have something so flexible where I can like make an income off not being at training, but like documenting it. So I can definitely like kill two birds with one stone. Where I'm at training, I'm also filming at training. So I'm doing both. But yeah, it's so great. And obviously my socials is all about my journey. So it is, so much of it is my training, and I love to share that. And also just to show my audience that like it wasn't very long ago where I was potentially where they are now in their journey, like first starting out. So I absolutely love it. And I feel very, very lucky to be able to do it.
And I've said it before, but I love the way you capture it. Like there's a really great like storytelling aspect to it, where it's like, this is where I was and this is where I am now. And I imagine like you say it, it's like the people who are coming through, it's like, well, oh, Liv can do it, like so can I.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why I can't. Like you, like respectfully, we're all just normal people.
Yeah, we're all human.
Just trying to make it work in this big bad world. You know what I mean?
I know. I've come across a few girls that I do a little bit of like pro racing down in Victoria, so like stall gift kind of racing, and anyone can enter at that, and it's handicapped as well. So you don't have to be the best sprinter in the world, and everyone's off a staggered start. So it's great for everyone. And I've come across a few girls that have been like, oh, I've been following you, and like you inspired me to get into this. And like they race every weekend. Some of them like mums. And it's like so awesome to see, and just makes me so happy that people can get something out of what I'm sharing, even if a lot of the time I feel like what I'm putting out is like, oh, no one's going to get anything out of this. No one wants to hear it. But like, yeah, you don't realize people do when an actual human comes up to you in person.
Is there a standout story or memory that sticks out to you of someone reaching out?
I think just like young girls, I think being inspired to like pursue sport. I think there's this, I just hate how when you're like 18 and you're finishing school and everyone feels like you have to ditch your sport and like grow up so fast. Like you can just continue. Like I'm almost 24 now, and I've never gone a year off not playing sport. And I think so many girls think that they have to, and it's not cool to play sport when you're like 18 and like that's when you work and you go out. So I don't think there's a standout story, but just like those young girls that are like, oh, like I really want to have a crack at my sport now. So yeah.
I think it is really inspiring. And it is cool to see it. Like I love that you're just open about it. Like you're open about the highs, but you're also open about the lows.
Yeah.
What it looks like, what does training look like.
Yeah.
And while we're here, I've actually got a voice memo question that I'm gonna play for us at the moment.
Okay.
Hey Liv, Boyd here. Keegan has asked me to think of a question to ask you on your potty today. And I was just having to think about a few things because it's pretty hard because I feel like I know pretty well everything about you. But I feel like it's a good opportunity to, I guess, speak about the adversities you faced and the work ethic that you have and how hard you work every day. With that in mind, the question I have is, what are the biggest challenges of working in social media and the effect that social media has on your mental health? I feel like it's a good opportunity for you to chat about some adversities that you've faced, and yeah.
That is so funny because he kept asking me the past few days, are you nervous for the podcast?
Oh, really?
He's like, is there anything they're going to ask you that you're nervous about? And I was like, I don't think so. Like,
should
why
there
do
be?
you keep asking me that?
Yeah, gotcha.
And then when I was leaving this morning, he was still in bed, and I was like, oh, I got the podcast. He goes, you should really talk about your challenges.
Yeah, really?
And I was like, okay.
That's so
funny. What a cheeky bugger.
He's so good. He was awesome.
That's so
he was
funny.
Really cool.
That's funny. Well, I think on the topic there's a few things. I think on like having a social media presence, I think there's been some instances where, like, I love on race day to be like treated as an athlete, and I'm not there as like a social media presence. Like I'm not there for content. I'm there to race, and that's what I do. And I think sometimes people think that I don't know, I just feel like sometimes I'm not taken seriously as an athlete, and like I want to put all the social media aside when I'm on the start line. I am quite a stress head and very much a perfectionist, and I feel like results definitely like, and I put a lot of pressure on myself too, which I know that my audience don't put pressure on me, but like when you got so many people watching, you kind of convince yourself that you do. So I feel like I'm always the most nervous person on the start line, because I feel like I have so many eyes watching me, and I obviously want to execute because I've been documenting so long. So I love to document my journey. Like heading into Worlds this year, I was like, oh, let's film every week. This is 18 weeks out from Worlds and the big countdown. And then when I got to Worlds, I was like, oh my God, so many people that follow me are here. Like I need to execute. And I think I definitely worry more so about the result a lot rather than actually just enjoying the process, because it's always like the month after the race where I'm like, that was so fun. And I didn't enjoy it at all because I was so nervous and so stressed about it and like felt sick about it. And I've been doing it for so long now. Like obviously I care, and I like nerves are great, but yeah, sometimes it's just a bit too much and I need to just relax a little bit, enjoy the process, and that's where all my best results come from. So
How do you deal with the pressure, like in the moment? Because like you mentioned that, you know, people come and watch you, which is wild. Like I can't imagine that there's too many beach sprinters, like apart from like friends and families, that like want to come and see you race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially because it's such like a niche thing. Like so many people haven't heard of it. So to have like an audience there is so cool.
So how do you deal with that pressure?
I don't know. I just think I just tell myself that I've put in the work. I always try and rock up on like the biggest race of the year and just be like, well, there's nothing more I could have done. I put in the work. Whatever happens, happens. And I just constantly replay that through my mind. But yeah, it really comes to making sure that I'm giving every session my all, so that when race day comes, it's like, well, it's out of your control now. You've put in the work. If you perform poorly, then it is what it is. But yeah, there's nothing more you could have done.
I love that. I think we did a podcast with Nathan Cleary. He's like a rugby league player. Just won 4 premierships in a row. He did really good. Yeah, he's like, and talk about pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like the pressure to not only win one grand final, but to go back to back to back.
Yeah.
Like, and he talks about the pressure, like Origin player, Australian player. And I was like, how do you go with that?
Yeah.
And he's like, mate, to be honest, when I was younger, or when in like the 2019 season, when he was just got picked for State of Origin, he was killing it, but the club wasn't doing that well.
Yeah.
It's like I had a huge amount of pressure to perform, and it's like if I dropped the ball on the field, I would constantly be thinking, what are people going to write about me after, like during the game, like mid game, and like he's like the amount of pressure that I was feeling was incredible, and then and also like the fear of other people's opinion, that was a big one, but he worked on that, and he went and had like some really great conversations with his dad, who was the coach, but then also a lot of other strength and conditioning players and or coaches, but what he sort of drilled down into is just like, well, actually, like I don't look at the game day as a sign of pressure anymore. I look at all the things leading up to it, which is exactly what you talk about. It's like, so if I do the work during the week, in the preseason, I've done all these incredible things to make me the best player I am on that day. Yeah. That takes the pressure out of it for me.
Exactly.
And it's a mindset thing. So he's conscious of it and he's aware of it. So game day, he's sitting there comfortable, maybe listening to a bit of chill music, where it's just like, nah, I've done all the work.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he enjoys it so much more on game day because he doesn't have that stress and that pressure there.
Yeah, and you just have so much more trust in yourself and your abilities when you actually put in the work, and you're like, you have so much more confidence as well when you've actually like invested in yourself for so long. And I find it's also so important as an athlete to have other avenues outside of your sport, rather than your sport being your whole entire life. Obviously it's hard when you're like that and that's your career, but to have something else to fall back on, like especially even if you get injured, like I am fortunate, touch wood, that my body has been really good the past few years and I haven't had any major injuries, but I'm like, well, when that does come, what am I going to do? A lot of my work revolves around it. So to have just things outside your sport that you love, like I love going on my sunrise walks and going to the beach and spending time with my dog and just other things that light you up. It's so important to have that as well.
Because I was going to say, like I look at you and like I imagine like social media would be like another big part of your life as well.
Yeah.
But that's part of your training as well. So when you're training, and like Desi spoke about it when she got injured, right?
Yeah.
And she's just like, well, like my coping mechanism is like training, right? Like she loves to train.
Yeah.
But when that was taken away from me, like that's a hard thing to do. But then she flipped it and she actually documented her
Yeah.
coming back from an injury.
And that inspires so many people.
Inspired so many other people.
Yeah.
And she's like, I actually really enjoyed like seeing other people get so much joy out of it as well.
Yeah.
I think that was a really cool piece.
Yeah, and to see her like absolutely thriving when she does in her sport, everyone's just like, wow, like the support is next level because they've seen the adversity that you've overcome.
100%.
So it's so important, I think, to be vulnerable and more open on social media about all those things, because then when the good stuff does happen, it's like so much more rewarding and everyone can see it.
And we all go through our own shit.
Yeah, and we're human.
We're human. We
Yeah.
all go through our own shit, and
Yeah.
that's fine, and it's normal. And that's why I love like these conversations where we can
Yeah.
sit down and it's just us, and we're talking about like, yeah, we're going through. It might be around like anxiety or depression or pressures. We talked
Yeah.
about that, and it's like everyone goes through something different.
Yeah.
But then when we've got someone who we might look up to, it's a bit influential in like their own community, it's like,
Yeah.
oh well, like if Liv goes through pressures, like I go through pressure as well.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's different, and everyone's hard is still hard. Like,
Yeah.
like they'll look at you and be like, oh well, like Liv's got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. Like her pressure must be so much harder than mine. Well, it's like, no, it's relative.
Yeah.
Like the hardest thing you're going through is still the hardest thing that you're going through.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important message as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I do what I do as well, because I feel like when I was really young and social media wasn't as huge as it is now, there were athletes to look up to, but you never knew what they did in their day to day. So you only saw their success, and that like when shit things did happen to you, you were like, you felt so alone. So like I'm not the best beach sprinter in the country, but I think the value that I do provide is that I show people my journey and the highs and the lows, and something to relate to and something to look up to, and show like, and just something that's real as well. And that's something I'm trying to be the person that I needed when I was younger to look up to, because obviously I had so many setbacks. But my idols were the girls playing for the Vixens and for the Diamonds that had made it, but I didn't see when they didn't make it. So, yeah.
You talked about confidence
Yeah.
before. How do you think you build confidence?
Investing in yourself, 100%. I think I'm not my most confident when I'm like my fastest or my leanest or my earning the most money. It's always when my routine is just so great and I'm feeding myself well, I'm training well, I'm putting in the work for my mental health, I'm socializing, just like all my buckets are full and I'm investing into everything. Yeah, and it took me a while to notice that, but I think just when, I'm just looking after myself, that's when I feel my most confident.
I love that. And I think that's a time thing, yeah?
Yeah.
And when you can see it, like you put the effort in, you see the results.
Yeah.
Like you do all the work, like the 18 weeks leading up to the Worlds or a big competition.
Yeah.
And then when you have positive success, it's like, oh, well, actually, it's funny, like what working hard can do.
I know.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
Even like in this last sort of 18 months, like this has been the busiest I think I've ever been, right?
Really?
Like, yeah, like it's,
Yeah.
but it's all fun. Like it's
Yeah.
all really great. Like I love this podcast. This is just a passion project, but I could spend endless amounts of time on
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean?
love that.
But then also like studying psychology, like
So cool.
that ties into this. Then
Yeah.
also working full time. It's like it's a busy time, but I love all of it. And I think like life got so great in the last like a year, 18 months when I feel like I've just really dialed in.
Yeah.
And you know, take the year off out drinking and it's funny like what good things come.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like I wouldn't have got to go over to the Whoop HQ and if you didn't start this start
Yeah.
this thing. And then like I look at your story and the similarities where you're like you were 19 and you just started. Like you just went to the track and you're like, I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm just gonna start it.
I know.
And then figure it out along the way.
And I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't just decide, fuck it, I'm just going to move to the Gold Coast. I'm just going to do it now.
Fuck, it's like a full sliding door moment.
Yeah, like I'd probably still be studying a degree I don't like. I'd be probably still living at home. I'd still be getting blind every weekend. Like I probably wouldn't, I would be running, but I'd probably still be playing like a team sport and not enjoying it. So yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, I think about that concept all the time.
Yeah, and
like,
I always encourage like on socials, like just take the leap. Like if there's something you want to do, just do it because it's, whatever's meant to be will be. And for me, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah.
That's what are you looking forward to? What are the fun things that are coming up? Whether that's like on socials or like in sprinting or personal life. What's some fun things that are coming up?
Race season. I've got like a huge next few like months of racing. December, I've got 6 events, which is fun.
Great.
Like racing just lights me up so much. So it's so exciting and it's really nice to see all your hard work executed on the track. So I'm really excited to see how I go. And then that carries over pretty much all the way through to April, where we have Nationals and the Stall Gift. They're like my two major races of every season. And then I've got a few little exciting collaborations work-wise next year, which I'm really excited about.
Can't talk about them? Can we talk about
Can't
them?
talk about them
Oh,
yet.
come
I
on.
know. I hate to be that person, but
Yeah.
I'm really excited. And I really hope to do a little bit more travel next year. I feel like since moving to the Gold Coast, obviously from Melbourne, the novelty hasn't really worn off. And I haven't really had the desire to go anywhere other than Bali because I'm like, this place is just so good.
We ran into each other.
Yeah.
That was so random.
I know.
That's a great gym though, Bamboo
so
in
good.
Uluwatu. That was
I definitely
sick.
will be going back to Bali.
Yeah, yeah. Why were you there?
Just for fun.
Just for a fun little
Yeah,
trip?
yeah.
Sick. Did
I went there.
Did Boyd go as well?
Yep.
Sick.
I think he was sick when we bumped into
Oh,
each other.
gotcha.
Yeah, he
Gotcha.
got stung.
Oh, I got him.
But and then otherwise, I don't really know. I feel like I just really want to next year just surrender to whatever happens, and just see what opportunities come my way. But I've realized over the past few years that you really need to, with your goal setting, just dream big, because like so many like 5-year goals have happened within the past like 6 months. So
For you?
yeah, so I'm just going to let things happen as they go and not set super huge goals, because I feel like anything can just happen.
Well, you're not going to set super huge goals? You're just gonna wait
Nothing
and
like
see?
too specific, I think. Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Like think big, but also like dream
Yeah,
big. 'Cause
dream big.
It's wild to think what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're like, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. It's like, it's wild to see and like, it's wild to like think what could happen
Yeah.
when you just work hard and are a good person.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
like those two things together, I don't know what it is. There's like some little magic there.
Yeah.
Where you're like, really incredible things can happen.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a really cool piece.
Yeah.
Before we finish up, you touched on routine, and I kind of want to what's a day in your life look like? Because I look at you on social media, like you're up at the sunrise early, nice little walk with the doggo. Like, what does a day look like for you? Because it looks like you fit so much into it.
Yeah, definitely do fit a lot in my day, but
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm still not doing enough.
Really?
Yeah, but at the moment I get up at 4 in the morning. I wake up with the sun, so since Gold Coast doesn't have daylight savings, sunrise is at like 4:30, so I get up for it. Obviously, in winter it's a bit later. I get up, go to sunrise at the beach with my dog. We walk for a little bit. He can't walk very far, so it's a pretty short walk.
Isn't he Aussie Shepherd?
Yeah, he's only 3, but he's just very lazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. But we do our little morning walk, and then at the moment I'm like starting my work days around 5, which I'm really loving. And then I either have gym, which I'll go to at around 7 with my S&C coach, and I'll do a little bit of filming there if I need to, or I'll just be training. And if I don't have gym, then I'll have track that afternoon at 4:30. And then the middle of my day is pretty much just filled with like creating reels, editing reels, filming YouTube, trying to get better at that and film more. But yeah, it's pretty much just like filming, editing. There's a few like maybe random events that pop up. And then after training is sort of recovery, getting my sauna, get my massage.
You got a sauna at home?
Yes.
Best ever.
So good.
So good.
But I've been pretty bad with it. I feel like it's one of those things like when I didn't have a sauna, I'd always go to the recovery place and do a sauna. But now that I have one, I do it nowhere near as much because it's just too easy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
You almost like need to put in like a little routine.
I know. My night routine needs to improve. My morning routine's great.
Yeah.
I love my podcast in the morning, and I don't go on my phone for the first few hours.
Why's that?
I just find it helps me like get up and get shit done if I'm not allowed to look at my phone. So I don't look at it.
You set that rule with yourself.
Yeah. So, because the mornings that I sleep in, sometimes I'll like go on my phone, and then it's like, okay, it's been 40 minutes and I still haven't left the house. Whereas I get up at 4 and I leave at 4:08. So I've got 8 minutes to like get ready, get out the door with the dog.
That is the fastest I've ever heard any girl get ready.
I know, right?
Respectfully to all you girls, like that is insane.
I don't have time to look at social media.
Yeah.
So, and then I just don't go on it until my walk's done, which really allows me just to be a little bit more mindful and present and just in my own thoughts and not staring at my phone while I'm surrounded by a beautiful sunrise as well.
I love that. Is that probably like a good time to think as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Like great thinking time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I love it.
Love that.
I love the mornings on the Gold Coast. I feel very lucky.
Yeah, especially during winter. Coming into summer, it's still like hot. Like I feel like it's muggy.
Oh, I know.
Liv, I love this conversation.
Me
This has been
too.
so fun. I'm
Thank
very,
you.
very grateful for you coming on. Before we do wrap things up, what do you think is the biggest thing that we didn't touch on today that you'd like to talk about? Or that like a theme that you think would be really great to talk about?
Maybe food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like something that I always preach is that like food is fuel, and I think a lot of female athletes need to know that, and that's something that I try, like a message I try and spread on my platform, showing that like if you want to perform as an athlete, you need to eat like one. And yeah, I was definitely like influenced by social media when like TikTok was first coming out, and I was living in Melbourne, and there was really like harmful and like bad messages being portrayed on social media about how you should eat to look a certain way. And yeah, I just think girls need to remember how important it is to fuel their body to perform. And yeah, and you're so much more than what you look like, and that you should, I highly encourage everyone to focus on performance rather than aesthetics.
I love
Because
that.
it's so easy as a young girl to get caught up in all that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I definitely needed to hear at the beginning of my journey. So
That was something that hit
yeah,
home for you.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's such a really great parting message, because like fuel helps. Like you
Yeah.
you need to put the right food in, right?
Yeah.
And I'm similar. Like even in footy, it's like we get like fat tested going into
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Like skin folds.
Yeah.
You come in, boys are a bit overweight at the start. You're in fat club. Like it's
Did that like impact you at all?
I don't think so, because it was such a norm.
Yeah.
What probably the biggest thing that I learned was like I can regulate my body composition very easily.
Yeah.
You know, and to be honest, I'd fallen on the fact of probably the other way, where like I needed to put more weight on.
Yeah.
Because I was a smaller build.
Yeah.
So they're like.
So it was a positive thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was kind of like, but then it got to the point where I'm overeating. Like I had to eat 2 hours, like every 2 hours to try and hold it. Like you're at 100 kilos. We want you playing at 104 this year.
Yeah, wow.
So therefore, eating every hour, protein shakes like right before you go to bed. I had one coach when I was younger saying, "Wake up in the middle of the night and have a protein shake."
No.
And like looking back at it now, I'm like, that is ridiculous. Like especially
Yeah.
after this whoop, like doing some
Oh,
stuff.
imagine. Whoop would be so mad.
Anyway, that wasn't when I was pro. That was when I was younger. But it was an interesting conversation. But like I look at guys, and to be honest, it was kind of a joke. Like it was almost humor, where like, oh, you're in fat club. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't think the girls do it anymore. The boys still might. But yeah, it's an interesting
That's so
conversation.
funny.
Yeah.
It really is a tool though, hey? Like
Fully.
Yeah, you can do wonders with your performance if you just really dial in with your sleep and nutrition.
But also like energy levels. Like when I'm eating clean, like whole foods, like good quality meat, I'm fucking ready to go. You know
I remember
what I mean?
when I like first moved to the Gold Coast, and I definitely wasn't fueling myself correctly, but also was so uneducated that I didn't, like, there was no intention behind it. I just had no idea what I was doing, and it would get like my energy would be so poor where I got to the point where I started literally hating sprinting. I was like, I hate this. I hate training. And all it took was like eating a little bit more, and I was like, I've fallen back in love with the sport.
Yeah.
Like it can even mess with your mind.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
Though? What do you usually eat? Are you like whole foods, or you like what? How do you go with that? Like, what's your food of choice?
Mostly like whole foods, but I do use like processed foods as fuel when I need it. Like before training, when I need like simple carbs, I'll dial into that. And like race day is like pretty much purely processed, like snakes and like energy bars and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I just love my meals are pretty balanced. I just have like a carb, a fat, and a protein and everything. Plenty of snacks. Love my overnight oats for breakfast.
Oh my god, love
the best. And then I just have like chicken, veggies, and rice for lunch in a big little nourish bowl. And then I love like my steak and veggies for dinner. Ninja Creamy for dessert.
Ninja Creamy.
Non-negotiable.
Is that the like the appliance?
Yeah.
It looks like super smooth. Like you make like little ice creams or yogurts out of them.
Oh, it's the best.
Really?
Favorite meal of the day.
Fuck,
yeah.
really?
Everyone needs a Ninja Creamy. Not sponsored.
Is it
Just a recommendation?
just a loving thing that we need to get in the kitchen.
Yeah, it was the best thing I ever bought. It's so good.
Wow.
Like you can turn anything into ice cream.
What do you mean? Like any like fruits?
Yeah, like I sometimes will just have like milk and protein powder, which would sound so boring, but it turns into like a complete delicacy.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah, and you can put anything in it. You can have it for breakfast. You can make like acai bowls, thick shakes, sorbet. It's just so fun.
You've got my mind thinking now.
Yeah.
I think that might be me.
It's awesome.
That might be my little dessert.
Yeah.
Liv, I do have a gift for you. This is terrible podcasting, but let me just get you some.
Oh, thank you.
It's a
That's so nice.
it's a whole thing. It's a one of our partners or a couple of our partners. You've got like a Keegan and Company hat there, which I know you probably might not be into hats.
Thanks.
But if it's not, you can give it to Boyd. That's fine.
Boyd would love this.
Yeah, it's a hot girl hat, so he would love
Yeah.
it. It's like I made him and like I kind of like the dad setup, like the dad hats.
Yeah.
But then look, we gift them to obviously athletes that come on the podcast,
Yeah.
and like this is a hot girl hat. I got my ice long black walking along
Yeah.
belly palmy. I was like,
Yeah.
But our partners at Lulu, they've given you a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's so
I don't know if you're
nice.
aligned with. I'm sure you are probably aligned with someone. But anyway, that's
Thank you.
little gift there. Just say thank you. Like thanks so much for coming on.
Oh,
Like,
no,
it's-
thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
It's been really cool.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye bye.